Hello, my name is McCoy Hill, and I'll be presenting today on a Giving Voice to Values case found in the text entitled Bennie and the Jets. So, to give a little bit of summary on this case, we have an accounting manager, Bennie, who is an accounting manager at Jet Energy, which is a company that provides energy to millions of people in North Carolina. Now, Jet Energy is a company that's regulated by state utilities commissions to make sure their rate of return on operating income doesn't exceed 12.5%. And thus keeping the rates low for customers. The problem is that Bennie discovers some irregular accounting entries that reclassify accounting items to make the company's returns lower, and therefore state regulators will not cut rates on the company. So the company may be doing something kind of shady to um, prevent their rates from being cut. Now, to understand where Bennie's at and some of the options that he may be presented with, I think it's important for us to understand the reporting process of the company. So here we see that Bennie is an accounting manager. He reports to Sarah Higgins, who's the controller of the division, who reports to the CFO and then to the CEO. Now, there's two other people here that Bennie may be able to go to. The company has a chief compliance officer named Joan Franks. They also have an audit committee, which is made up of three members that all serve on the board. And so Bennie's got some different avenues he can go to report this if that's what he decides is necessary. Now, how should Bennie respond? What is the correct thing for him to do? What's ethical? In answering this question, I've chose to use DeGeorge's 5 criteria for when whistleblowing is morally permitted. So the first question that Bennie needs to ask is, will the firm's action do serious and considerable harm to others? Now, along with this question, I think it's important for us to understand what type of ethical values should Bennie be putting weight on? And first and foremost, I think integrity. He needs to be able to be honest. And second, he needs to identify the stakeholders and be able to have their interests in mind. Second question is the whistleblowing act justifiable once the employee reports it to his immediate supervisor? So in this case, we're assuming that Bennie is going to go directly to Sarah Higgins, who's the controller of the division, report this act. And if it's justifiable, once Bennie goes and he reports it to Sarah, then maybe Bennie can just stop there. However, if it's not, the next thing we have is we've got a couple of actions that may be taken by Bennie. First, absent any action by the supervisor, in this case it's Sarah, the employee should take the matter all the way up to the board. And so maybe that means that Bennie goes up to the CFO and then up to the CEO. Maybe it means that he just goes straight to the chief compliance officer, and if they don't listen, then goes to the audit committee, which ultimately would reach the board. That may be what he needs to do if he feels like Sarah is not listening to him properly. The next action that he can go ahead and apply is to document evidence. Documented evidence must exist that would suggest to a reasonable observer that the action in question may incur harm. So Bennie needs to have some type of documentation showing that the stakeholders, who are the main stakeholders here, are the public, that there is harm being done to the public, and reasonably there might be if this action is true. And then a conclusion he can make is the employee must reasonably believe that going public will create the necessary change. That if Bennie really believes that going public with this is the only way to create a change, nobody in the reporting process will listen to him, then going public may be his best option. In conclusion, I think that Bennie needs to go through the necessary steps to blow the whistle on this action from the company because the main stakeholders are the public, and he has a moral duty to protect those stakeholders. And so I think that Bennie needs to go through the proper channels, be able to report to his direct supervisor, ultimately go up to the audit committee and the board. If they don't listen, he may need to consider going public because of the fact that the main stakeholder is the public and it could considerably harm them by not reporting this.